is the bumper music for test prep. 100%. Was I right or was I wrong? Welcome back to Middays in the Element Wealth Studios on SuperTalk. Dave Hughes here, and joining me now with Jumpstart Test Prep, Sha Walker. How you doing this morning, sir?
Great, Dave. Good to be here.
Good to see you again. We were talking in the green room. Hadn't seen you in a minute.
It's been a while. Got some good updates for ACT and ACT Work Keys initiatives going around the state, and looking forward to sharing that.
Well, and that's the key thing here is everybody, I think, probably has some idea, but they may not realize how important the ACT is, and especially the ACT Work Keys as well. I want to get into that on top of this because they're both hugely important for career and just general development opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great way to start off the discussion. You know, ACT in Mississippi, we're one of 18 states that mandate the ACT exam for all graduates. So in Mississippi, all juniors take the ACT in public school the spring of their junior year. And it turns out we're one of 18 states that do that. 12 of those states actually look at scores from the ACT and include it in as a concordant score for their graduation pathway. Mississippi is one of those states as well. So it can play into your graduation rate in the state by meeting that concordant score for various subject areas, or obviously the preparation that the precursor for college and career readiness entrance requirements. So 18 states for listeners is Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Hawaii, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Minnesota, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. And interestingly enough, 8 of those states use the ACT scores from that in their federal accountability plan. So they've built ACT improvement into their federal accountability plan. Those are Arizona, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. And Mississippi has not done that. In fact, in our accountability plan, ACT and ACT Work Keys account to about 5% of our state accountability plan, and it's not included in the federal portion. So,
well, and one thing to remember in regards to ACT, and you and I were talking about this, the ACT specifically. That can mean a lot of money because there are scholarships tied to your ACT score.
Yeah, it hit home today for us. My son just got his scores back, and if you're a parent out there waiting for scores to be released from the October test date, we just got ours today, and our son had taken the ACT 8 or 9 times. He's a senior now at Brookhaven High School, and he did advance from a 28 super score to a 30. And we're thrilled. That's what we're looking for. That gets us. He's interested in Mississippi State Engineering School, so looking at their scholarship offerings, that gets him into the tier at Mississippi State with his GPA of somewhere around $8,000 a year for scholarship, and that's pretty close to their tuition for a yearly 2-semester tuition. I think it's about $9,500. So it's going to save us a good bit of money. Just moving from a 28 to a 30 looks like about $3,000 additional per year. So times 4 years, that's, it's worth it to prep for that test. And, he's come a long way. His first attempt on it, I think, was a 19 back when he was a sophomore. And we recommend all parents let your child take the test, get familiarity with the time constraint, and just get to know the test on one blind run, and then start getting prepped. And because prepping for it involves reviewing really everything you've learned in your academic career, and that's what this ACT is. It's trying to determine your readiness for college and predict your ability to be successful in college. So it hasn't changed much in terms of test plan over 30, 40 years. And so the same ACT exam that you might have taken 10, 20 years ago is still the same basic structure and scoring method. So it's a pretty good comparison from year to year about how kids are doing.
Well, and very quickly, I want to work over to the ACT work keys as well, because while that's not necessarily for school kids, even though that is important for them as well and can be meaningful for them, it's also for adults and professionals.
Yeah,
right?
And actually, for work keys, it's a job skill assessment. Is basically what it is, and it's being adopted in more and more states. There are about 12 states now that utilize it in the classroom or for all graduates of high school and adult learners. But it's and we would call high school students our emerging workforce. So it's actually measuring their ability in a subject called applied math, which is basic real world math. Can you calculate the volume of a slab? Can you make change? Basic real world math, and it gets on the platinum level of the test, and I'll explain how it's scored. The platinum level questions and skills that are being assessed are a little more advanced, and it pays to prep. So there's the second section is called graphic literacy. It's trying to determine your ability to take tables and charts and be asked a question about what to do if it's raining on Wednesday and the humidity is this and the sun is this. Then within these tables and charts, what would we do if this? So you have to be able to navigate and critically think through what's being asked of you and navigate those graphics, and that's called graphic literacy. And then the third area is called workplace documents. In the workforce, we're all faced with workplace documents, and many times they're very important to understand what your employer wants you to do, process things, policy things. And so for high school kids or our emerging workforce, they've never seen a workplace document. So we found that preparing realistic timed practice with these three test areas before they take the actual assessment can make all the difference. We've got third-party evidence-based research from last year's rollout of our Work Keys program that shows you've got to triple the chance of getting gold or platinum after having completed all three of our test areas than having not. So, and I say platinum, the test is scored from no credential. You take the test and you don't get any credential. To the lowest level is called bronze. And then there's silver, gold, and platinum. Well, in our state accountability model, if you complete a CTE program at your high school and you must complete the ACT work keys and get a silver or higher to get credentialized and to be deemed college and career ready. So if you're not in a CTE program, you can take the work keys in our state now as of last year. And if you score gold or platinum on that assessment, you are college career ready in terms of our accountability model. So many schools now are implementing work keys for that reason, to try to get more percentage of their graduates deemed college and career ready within our accountability model. And I understand that there's a big push for all students to be provided this exam, this job skill assessment next year for our emerging workforce. And from a state perspective, that'll open the door to a labor force, an emerging labor force that you don't have to scratch your head over what they know. The job skill assessment really lets an employer know where your skill set lies in those three areas.
Well, and that was the thing that I wanted to ask and wanted to bring up, because there are, as we keep seeing new announcements of new major investments in Mississippi by various companies, these companies factor the work keys into their hiring decisions, don't they?
We just heard, I was at a convention a couple weeks ago, and I heard Gino Perkins from Nissan. I don't know if you know Gino, but he spoke there and said, he mentioned in his presentation that the work keys is part of their onboarding process, and you don't get an entry-level position at Nissan without getting a silver level on the work keys. So you want to work there, you're going to need to take the assessment, and you're going to need to do well on it. So more and more employers are adopting this. We use it at Jumpstart. It's for an employer. you've got the resume, and you've got your ability to interview and try to determine the skill set of who your applicant is. But the work keys reveals that pretty clearly for you in those 3 subject areas. So you don't have to really wonder what their proficiency is in those 3 subject areas. And you can make it's one more component that you can utilize for hiring decisions. So
it gives them a baseline to go by.
That's right.
How teachable is this person? How quickly is this person going to catch on? We're talking with Sha Walker from Jumpstart Test Prep, and we will continue with him when we return in the Element Wealth Studios live on Middays. Here on Middays, Dave Hughes here. Sha Walker with Jumpstart Test Prep in studio with us. And one question I was going to ask you just a minute ago that I do want to ask you here. You were talking about the various states where ACT is the thing. It's been the thing ever since I was in high school here in Mississippi, but it's not the case everywhere. A lot of the country uses the SAT. What's the difference between those two?
Yeah, glad you asked. So, SAT,
I'm just going to get comfortable because this may take a minute.
SAT is actually mandated in 11 states, so a little less adoption these days. Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Rhode Island, West Virginia. So SAT doesn't have a science section. In my opinion, and the team that I work with, it's actually a little easier to prepare for the SAT. Used to, the SAT was considered more difficult because you went down if you got a question wrong on test day. Now, that's not the case. You're not penalized for guessing, or if you miss a question, you're not penalized. So, honestly, there's fewer answer choices. So if you have to for multiple choice answers, then you've got a 25% chance of guessing correctly, and then on the ACT you've got 5, so 20% chance. So it's just a little bit different structure. Some states, mostly northern states, prefer it, but either path is acceptable to our schools. So all colleges and community colleges in Mississippi do recognize SAT and have scholarship levels there as well.
So there are differences, but I do find it interesting that they changed that to where it's no longer a zero-sum game. You started with the 1,600 and everything you missed knocked it down more.
That's right. Now they've changed that, and they kind of had to because I think ACT was just growing much, much faster and being adopted more and more. And so, I think you've heard national news saying ACT is we're in decline.
Oh, yes. Everything's awful. Just listen to the national news.
Yeah. Well, actually, in Mississippi, we just got our junior results back from 2023 class, last year's juniors versus the juniors before, and we saw an uptick, tenth of a point, but we moved up, whereas the rest of the average in the nation moved down. Right now, our graduating average is north of 18, just 18.1 or 2. That doesn't put us in a very good light nationwide. It puts us about 49th in the nation. I think Nevada is behind us. But again, we're a state that tests all students. So when you're testing all students, your average is lower than a state in the north where only optional college students are taking the test. So more and more, it's kind of deceiving when they say ACT scores have nationally dropped. It's because more and more students are taking it in states where it's been mandated. So it's a blessing in this state to be provided the ACT. All kids get that opportunity, and our mission is to make sure that they've got prep, that they're able to practice and utilize the great review that our co-founder created over 40 years of helping students do better. Her name's Dot McClendon, 19-year Star Teacher Hall of Fame, and she's helped thousands and thousands of kids perform better on this test because she realized you can't do your best on this exam without reviewing what you've learned in school. And it's more than tips and strategy. It is a content review. Half the math test on the ACT is pre-algebra and elementary algebra, things that a junior haven't seen in years. So we're finding that all students gain some level of proficiency by reviewing this content with time practice in a near time frame to test day. And when I say time practice, this assessment, it very much is a timed assessment. Parents out there that have kids that are scoring, that have great GPAs at their school, but they're scoring, in the high teens or low 20s, and they call us all the time. We just don't understand why is our score so low, and invariably it's time management. Their child is not working fast enough on the test. They're not seeing all the questions, and if you gave them unlimited time on the test, they would perform similarly to their GPA. And my son's an example of that. Given enough time, he would have gotten a 36 on the ACT. And I know that from practice tests that we've done. But learning to work with the clock, the time management aspect of the test is a very big part of what we do at Jumpstart, and it helps our students perform better.
Now, if people want to find out more about Jumpstart and what you do, what do they do?
Well, we're all online, so you go to jumpstarttestprep.com, and you can see what we've got available for classrooms. If you want to encourage your school to implement our program in the classroom, there's a tab for that. And then if you're a parent, you just got your October scores back and you see that you need help in one subject area, you can buy prep just for that subject area. We'll ship you a workbook. You've got 90-day access to the program, and we review content via streaming video, so it's not live. It's high definition, highly visual, and it's proven to get scores up. So you can find out all about it there. You can email us at info@jumpstarttestprep.com, but it's pretty straightforward.
Shay, always enjoyed talking to you, man.
Thanks, Dave.
Good information today. Sha Walker with Jumpstart Test Prep. He's now going to take a moment and breathe. We've got news from Fox and SuperTalk Mississippi News next.